Because an attacker might have some incentives like access control or whatever else to claim that it's somewhere else. It's not that it doesn't want to tell you where it is. It wants to claim that it's somewhere else. Because if it doesn't want to tell you where it is, well, pretty much there's nothing that you can do. But if it stands to gain some benefit from lying to you where it is, then you want a way to verify. So how does a base station know that it's getting a correctly reported location? Here we did a lot of work, and I must say that surprisingly, one of the first papers that tackled with this kind of problems was a paper on proximity detection by Brands and Chaum. It was a distance bounding protocol, which wanted to verify whether a card was close to an ATM. Whether you are talking to whether the ATM that you are talking to is a legitimate ATM and not maybe a fake ATM that's kind of routing your messages to a correct ATM. We turned it into a wireless protocol, adding some, let's say, mildly modifying what Brands and Chaum did. There were also some other modifications by Markus Kuhn and by the group of Dave Wagner at Berkeley. But what is the main idea here? Well, the main idea is very simple. To create an efficient protocol by which I can upper bound the distance to a device. By upper bound, what I mean is that if this is a base station, that this node A cannot pretend to be closer than it actually is. It can only pretend to be further. So you can challenge him and it's supposed to reply in a given time. You can devise some clever way of doing that such that the processing time at the node is minimized. So what you do is you challenge him. The only thing that he can do is he can delay his reply. He cannot reply faster than he receives your original message. So here, what you get is a very nice primitive that enables you to upper bound this device. But then you have to be a bit clever because this guy can always claim to be further, so what's the use? Well, now surprisingly, if you put this in a triangle, so if you use 3 or 4 in 3D base stations, and you form a certain, what we call a verification triangle, then what you can do is you can use the following feature, which is that if this node is trying to lie and it's trying to enlarge its distance to base station 1, well, it will necessarily reduce its distance to one of the remaining 2, and you will detect that it's trying to lie. So if you do this, you have a perfect location verification system, which has the following property, which is that within the verification triangle, that a device cannot pretend to be at a different location. Additionally, if a device is somewhere outside of the triangle, it cannot pretend to be within the triangle. So you have a location verification scheme that you can use for an access control. And we are very close to finalizing the implementation of this scheme. So more results will follow on this. We call this verifiable multilateration, and it's resistant both to internal attacks, so you can do location verification, but it's also quite resilient to external attacks as well. So you can do things a bit more. You can do more in terms of location verification. You don't need to form triangles, for example. What you can do is you can hide your infrastructure. You can simply hide it. How? Well, it's a very simple idea. If I am hidden as an infrastructure and you are transmitting certain messages to me, for example, you are sending me a signal, and based on the signal decay, I'm supposed to see what is my distance to you. Well, now you can always say I send at power p, and instead you send at power p prime. So I would get a wrong estimate of the distance, and what can I do to prevent that? Well, what I can do, I can ask you to tell me your location, and then ask you to send me your message, and to tell me at which power level you sent it. Now, if the reported location, which is here, PF, a fake location, doesn't correspond, so if the distance to the reported location doesn't correspond to the distance that I obtained that you tried to fake, then you are lying. And this works under the assumption that I hide. Okay, so I'm somewhere in the hidden, I'm somewhere in the bushes, right? Trying to verify where you are. Putting this in a mobile scenario, you have an excellent scheme because nodes move all the time, and tracking where someone is very, very hard. So we developed a set of protocols that can deal with that and that can benefit from that. And this is just to give you an idea about some additional work on secure localization and location verification that can be done. Now, coming to the kind of second line in my title, which was location awareness. How can we benefit from location awareness in order to provide some basic security primitives? As we showed already, using integrity codes, what we use is presence awareness. So I'm aware that I'm in a power range of an infrastructure which is transmitting on this campus, so I know that I'm covered by the infrastructure. I use presence awareness, and what I get is authenticity and integrity. So out of location information, or basically out of the knowledge about the location, awareness of location, I'm getting some strong security primitives, if you want, right? Well, once that you start thinking about presence awareness, then you might also start thinking about absence awareness. So we showed in a different work that if you know that the attacker is outside of a certain region, and here this region we call it an integrity region, which is marked by these two circles. If you know that the attacker is not within this the union of these two spheres, then you know that you can safely establish a key between these two devices without any danger of a man-in-the-middle attack. And here we use some ranging protocols using ultrasonic ranging, and you can be 100% sure. So you take two devices, A and B, you put them together, and you can visually see, that there are no attackers around them in these circles, right? In these spheres. And you press two buttons and they are paired. So you are putting a lot of pressure on the attacker, because if he wants to evade such a protocol, he physically has to be in an integrity region. Even if this region is a bit bigger, you are still forcing him to be on the site. He can no longer have a very high power direction antenna and sitting at home aiming at your devices. He has to come inside, or he has to get close to you, which is much more difficult. We are not alone here, so we were not the only ones doing this work. So here in these slides that you can, I guess, download online, you can find a number of papers that relate to distance verification, which mainly deal with distance bounding or authenticating ranging protocols, secure localization and location verification papers. I have to mention the work of Lukas Lazos and Rada Puvendran, also Markus Kuhn, and other works, for example, those dealing with secure localization in multi-hop networks, where you can leverage on some redundancy to detect if someone is trying to lie about location, secure time synchronization, and so on. So, in conclusion, what we have is something like emerging electronic warfare in civilian applications. So wireless electronic warfare is kind of moving to civilian applications, and we have to rethink what we do. I mean, traditionally this topic was in the military domain, and we didn't care that much because it didn't impact us so much. The same thing happened with the internet. So here as well, we are now facing this because there will be many of these devices around us. And the location information and time information is crucial there. Imagine a sensor network or a single sensor sending you one information, 20 degrees Celsius. What is the question that you want to ask? Where and when? These are the two questions that you will always ask. Whenever someone tells you there is an accident or there is an event, what you will ask yourself is where and when. And these are the two